You probably think the pasta sauce aisle is one of the safest places to shop. After all, every jar is covered with pictures of bright red tomatoes, fresh basil, and promises of authentic Italian recipes. Some brands even charge nearly $10 a jar, making you believe you're paying for premium quality. But here's the truth most shoppers never discover. Many of America's best-selling pasta sauces contain surprisingly little of what actually makes great pasta sauce, and far more ingredients designed to imitate the flavor, texture, and richness that high-quality tomatoes should provide naturally. The biggest surprise? Several of the brands, trusted by millions of families for decades, rely on added sugar, modified starches, soybean oil, and vague ingredients like natural flavor to cover up what the tomatoes themselves can't deliver. Today, we're exposing the 5 pasta sauce brands you should think twice before buying and counting down to the worst offender of them all. Then we'll reveal 5 brands that take a completely different approach, using cleaner ingredient lists and letting real tomatoes do the work instead of relying on industrial shortcuts. Everything you'll hear comes directly from the ingredient labels themselves, not marketing claims, not flashy packaging, and not television commercials. By the end of this video, you'll never look at the pasta sauce aisle the same way again. Let's get started. Number 5. Bertolli Tomato and Basil, the Italian sauce that isn't nearly as authentic as it looks. Few pasta sauce brands have built a stronger Italian image than Bertolli. The elegant label, the familiar name, and the prominent mention of olive oil all send one clear message. This is premium Italian-inspired pasta sauce. And that's exactly what the company wants shoppers to believe. But once you flip the jar over, the story begins to change. Despite its Italian branding, Bertolli Tomato and Basil is produced in the United States. More importantly, the olive oil featured so prominently on the front label plays only a very small role in the actual recipe. Instead, one ingredient quietly reveals what's really happening inside the jar. Modified cornstarch. This isn't there for flavor. It's there because the tomato base alone isn't thick enough to create the rich texture consumers expect. Rather than achieving body through slowly cooked, high-quality tomatoes, the sauce relies on an industrial thickener to create the illusion of richness. The sweetness tells a similar story. Instead of tasting naturally sweet from ripe tomatoes, the flavor comes across as rounded and artificial, as though the recipe needed help becoming complete. For a sauce that typically sells between $5 and $6, you're paying premium pricing for branding more than ingredients. The elegant Italian image does most of the selling. The ingredient list tells a very different story. Number 4. Hunt's Traditional Pasta Sauce, the cheap sauce that doesn't hide what it is, but still falls short. If Bertolli sells you an Italian dream, Hunt's goes in the opposite direction. There's no rustic farmhouse on the label, no stories about old family recipes, no promises of gourmet quality. Hunt's positions itself as the budget-friendly option, and at under $2 a jar, that's exactly what most shoppers expect. Unfortunately, the low price comes with obvious compromises. The flavor is unmistakably tomato-based, but only in the most basic sense. It delivers acidity, a little sweetness, and a touch of seasoning. Yet none of those flavors ever develop into anything memorable. Every bite feels flat. Instead of tasting like tomatoes that were slowly cooked into a rich sauce, it tastes like a simplified version of tomato sauce made to meet a price target. The texture creates an even bigger problem. Once it's mixed with pasta, the sauce struggles to stay where it belongs. Rather than coating each noodle evenly, it quickly slides off and pools at the bottom of the plate. A pasta sauce should cling to pasta. When it can't, the problem isn't personal preference. It's the structure of the recipe itself. To Hunt's credit, its ingredient list is actually shorter than many sauces, costing 2 or 3 times more. You'll mainly find tomatoes, tomato puree, salt, sugar, and spices. There are no modified starches, no added oils, and no long list of stabilizers. That's a positive. But one ingredient still raises an important question. Sugar. Whenever sugar appears in a tomato sauce, it's often compensating for tomatoes that weren't naturally sweet enough to create a balanced flavor on their own. The sodium content is also fairly high, with around 550 milligrams per half-cup serving. Most people use far more than that in a normal pasta dinner, meaning the sodium adds up quickly. In many ways, Hunt's is the most honest brand on today's avoid list. It doesn't pretend to be gourmet. It doesn't hide behind expensive packaging. But honesty alone doesn't make it a great buy. When you can spend only a few dollars more for dramatically better ingredients and flavor, Hunt's simply becomes difficult to recommend. And the next brand proves that spending more money doesn't always guarantee a better sauce. Number 3 charges premium prices, while letting the glass jar do most of the convincing. Number 3. Classico Tomato and Basil, the premium glass jar that sells the image more than the sauce. At first glance, Classico feels like a step above almost everything else on the shelf. The heavy glass jar, the elegant label, the traditional name, everything about the packaging suggests you're buying something closer to restaurant quality than ordinary grocery store pasta sauce. And with a price tag between $5 and $7, most shoppers assume that's exactly what they're getting. But once you open the jar, the premium image begins to fade. The sauce is almost perfectly smooth, too smooth. There are virtually no tomato pieces, no variation in texture, and no signs that fresh tomatoes were ever the star of the recipe. Instead, everything has been processed into a uniform consistency designed for mass production rather than authentic flavor. Even the basil struggles to make an impression. It's technically there, but only faintly, adding little more than a subtle herbal note that disappears almost as quickly as it arrives. The ingredient list explains why. Alongside tomatoes, you'll find both citric acid and natural flavor. Neither ingredient is automatically harmful, but together they reveal something important about the recipe. Tomatoes are naturally acidic. A high-quality tomato sauce usually develops its bright, balanced taste from the tomatoes themselves. When additional citric acid becomes necessary, it's often helping compensate for tomatoes that weren't naturally vibrant enough in the first place. Then there's natural flavor. It's one of the food industry's broadest ingredient labels, covering a wide range of flavoring compounds without telling consumers exactly what's being added. In a product that's supposed to taste like tomatoes, needing extra flavoring raises an obvious question. Why aren't the tomatoes doing that job on their own? The sodium content sits around 450 milligrams per half-cup serving. Not the highest on this list, but still significant. And at $5 to $7 per jar, shoppers are paying premium prices for a sauce that still depends on flavor enhancers instead of exceptional ingredients. Ultimately, Classico succeeds because it looks premium. The glass jar feels expensive. The branding feels authentic. But once you look beyond the packaging, the ingredient list tells a much less impressive story. And the next two brands take this even further. One has been trusted by American families for generations. Yet its recipe relies on shortcuts that become impossible to ignore once you read the label carefully. Number 2. Ragu Old World Style Traditional, the family favorite that relies on more than just tomatoes. For decades, Ragu has been one of the most recognizable names in the pasta sauce aisle. Just hearing the words Old World Style Traditional brings to mind family recipes, slow-cooked meals, and authentic Italian cooking passed down through generations. That's exactly the image the brand has spent years building. But once you stop looking at the front label and start reading the ingredient panel, the picture changes dramatically. Near the top of the list, you'll find tomato puree, followed by water, then soybean oil. That single ingredient reveals a lot about the recipe. A well-made pasta sauce gets its richness naturally from concentrated tomatoes that have been simmered long enough to develop body and depth. When soybean oil becomes necessary, it's often helping create a thicker, richer mouthfeel that the tomato base alone can't provide. In other words, the oil isn't simply adding flavor. It's helping compensate for what the tomatoes are missing. The flavor reflects that same shortcut. The first spoonful delivers a quick burst of tomato flavor, but it fades almost immediately. There's very little complexity. No gradual sweetness, no deep tomato finish. Instead, what lingers most is salt and seasoning, rather than the tomatoes themselves. The texture also feels inconsistent. At times, it's thin enough to run off the pasta, yet somehow still carries an artificial heaviness that doesn't resemble a sauce, slowly reduced over hours. The ingredient list continues to raise concerns. Added sugar, citric acid, natural flavor, dehydrated onions instead of fresh onions. Each ingredient may seem insignificant on its own. Together, however, they paint a clear picture of a recipe relying on multiple shortcuts to recreate qualities that premium tomatoes naturally provide. The sodium content reaches roughly 600 milligrams per half cup, making it one of the saltiest sauces on today's list. At around $2 to $3 a jar, Ragu certainly looks like a bargain. But low cost means very little if the recipe depends on fillers, flavor adjustments, and industrial processing instead of quality ingredients. Its greatest strength isn't what's inside the jar, it's familiarity. Ragu has occupied grocery shelves for generations, becoming the automatic choice for millions of shoppers who simply grab the label they recognize without ever turning the jar around. And that brings us to the brand sitting at the very top of today's countdown. It's America's best-selling pasta sauce. It's been in grocery carts for more than 4 decades, and once you examine the ingredients carefully, you'll understand why its popularity has far more to do with habit than quality. Number 1. Prego Traditional America's best-selling pasta sauce, and the biggest disappointment on the shelf. For more than 40 years, Prego has been one of the most familiar names in American grocery stores. Millions of shoppers grew up with it. Generations of families have reached for the same red label without giving it a second thought. When a product has dominated supermarket shelves for decades, it's easy to assume it must be doing something right. But popularity and quality are not always the same thing. In Prego's case, its greatest advantage isn't the recipe, it's familiarity. Most people don't actively choose Prego because they've compared ingredient labels. They buy it because it's the brand they've always known. And that's exactly how market leaders stay on top. Once you open the jar, the sauce delivers a flavor that's designed to offend no one, but impress very few. The tomato flavor is mild. The sweetness arrives first. The acidity follows. Then everything fades away without leaving much depth or complexity. Nothing tastes particularly bad, but nothing tastes memorable either. That's not an accident. It's a recipe carefully engineered to appeal to the widest possible audience, creating a safe, predictable flavor rather than one built around exceptional tomatoes. Then comes the ingredient list. Tomato puree appears first, which is expected. But not far behind are ingredients that reveal how the sauce achieves its consistency and flavor. Modified food starch, added sugar, natural flavor. Each one serves a specific purpose. The modified starch creates thickness that higher quality tomatoes would naturally develop during slow cooking. The sugar compensates for tomatoes that don't provide enough natural sweetness. And natural flavor helps reinforce a tomato taste that the base ingredients struggle to deliver on their own. Perhaps the most surprising number is the sodium. A single half-cup serving contains around 650 milligrams of sodium, one of the highest amounts in today's entire ranking. And let's be honest, very few people stop at just half a cup. A generous serving can easily double that amount, turning one pasta dinner into a significant portion of your recommended daily sodium intake. When you combine the added sugar, modified starch, flavor enhancers, and high sodium content, one thing becomes clear. Prego isn't America's best-selling pasta sauce because it has the cleanest ingredients. It's America's best-selling pasta sauce because it's been the default choice for decades. People recognize the label. They trust the name. And most never stop long enough to read what's actually inside the jar. That's why Prego earns the #1 spot on today's avoid list. Not because it's unsafe, but because there are simply far better options available for the same, or only slightly higher price. Now, let's look at the brands that actually deserve a spot in your shopping cart. Avoiding disappointing sauces is only half the battle. The good news is that several brands prove you don't need a long list of additives to make great pasta sauce. Instead of relying on sugar, starches, and flavor enhancers, these companies let high-quality tomatoes do what they were meant to do. Coming up are the 5 sauces that stand out for cleaner ingredient lists, better flavor, and recipes that stay much closer to what real pasta sauce should be. And the #1 recommendation isn't even a finished pasta sauce. It's something professional chefs have trusted for generations. Best option number 5, Victoria Marinara, the small batch style sauce that keeps the recipe simple. Kicking off the recommended list is a brand that doesn't rely on flashy marketing or oversized claims. Victoria Marinara has quietly built a loyal following by focusing on something many mass-market sauces have forgotten, letting the tomatoes remain the star. The difference becomes obvious as soon as you open the jar. Instead of an overly smooth, processed consistency, the sauce has a rustic texture with visible tomato pieces, herbs, and a richness that feels naturally developed rather than artificially thickened. It looks like something that's simmered in a pot, not something engineered in a factory. The flavor follows the same philosophy. Rather than overwhelming your palate with sugar or excessive salt, Victoria allows the tomatoes to deliver their own sweetness. The garlic, onions, olive oil, and herbs support the flavor instead of covering it up. Each bite tastes balanced, with a clean finish that doesn't leave behind the artificial aftertaste common in many cheaper sauces. Then there's the ingredient list. It's refreshingly short. Tomatoes, olive oil, onions, garlic, salt, fresh herbs. No modified starch, no soybean oil, no added sugar, no vague natural flavor. Every ingredient has a clear purpose, and none of them exist simply to compensate for weak tomatoes. The sodium content is also noticeably lower than many mainstream brands, making it a better option for shoppers trying to reduce unnecessary salt without sacrificing flavor. At around $7 to $9 per jar, Victoria certainly isn't the cheapest sauce in the aisle. But unlike many premium-priced competitors, the higher cost reflects the ingredients inside the jar, not just elegant packaging. If you've been disappointed by sauces that promise authentic Italian flavor but deliver little more than sweetness and salt, Victoria is one of the easiest upgrades you can make. And while this brand keeps things simple, the next recommendation goes one step further by proving that organic ingredients and outstanding flavor can exist at virtually the same price as many of the brands on today's avoid list. Best option number 4, Muir-Glen Organic Tomato Basil. The organic sauce that proves simple ingredients still win. If you're looking for a cleaner pasta sauce without jumping to the highest price tier, Muir-Glen Organic Tomato Basil deserves a serious look. Unlike many brands that lean heavily on Italian imagery and nostalgic marketing, Muir-Glen focuses on something far more important: the tomatoes themselves. The company sources organic tomatoes grown in California's Sacramento Valley, where warm days and fertile soil help develop naturally sweet, flavorful fruit. That quality becomes obvious the moment you open the jar. Instead of a perfectly uniform puree, you'll notice small pieces of real tomato throughout the sauce. The texture feels natural rather than manufactured. It coats pasta beautifully without relying on artificial thickeners, giving every bite a homemade character that's difficult to find in most supermarket sauces. The flavor is equally impressive. The tomatoes provide a fresh, bright sweetness that doesn't feel forced. The basil complements the sauce instead of overpowering it, while garlic, onions, and extra virgin olive oil add depth without masking the tomato flavor. Nothing tastes exaggerated. Everything tastes balanced. Then there's the ingredient list, one of the cleanest in this price range. Organic tomatoes, organic tomato puree, organic extra virgin olive oil, organic onions, sea salt, organic garlic, organic basil, organic black pepper, citric acid for preservation. That's it. Every ingredient is recognizable. There are no modified starches to create artificial thickness, no soybean oil replacing olive oil, no added sugar correcting bland tomatoes, and no mysterious natural flavors trying to imitate what real tomatoes should already provide. Another advantage is the sodium content. At roughly 310 milligrams per half-cup serving, Muir-Glen contains significantly less sodium than every brand on today's avoid list, allowing the natural tomato flavor to shine instead of depending on salt. Perhaps the biggest surprise is the price. Typically selling for around $5 to $7 per jar, Muir-Glen costs almost exactly the same as brands like Bertolli and Classico. The difference isn't what you pay, it's what you're paying for. One jar invests in better ingredients, the other invests in better marketing. That makes Muir-Glen one of the best values in the entire pasta sauce aisle. But if Muir-Glen represents an excellent balance between quality and price, the next recommendation raises the bar even higher. It's the sauce that completely changed what many shoppers believed jarred pasta sauce could taste like. And for countless home cooks, it's still considered the gold standard. Best option number 3, Rao's Homemade Marinara. The premium jar that actually justifies its price. Few pasta sauces have earned as much praise from home cooks and professional chefs as Rao's Homemade Marinara. Unlike many premium brands that spend millions creating an image of authenticity, Rao's built its reputation the old-fashioned way. People tasted it, then they kept buying it. The first thing you'll notice after opening the jar is that it doesn't look factory perfect. Small tomato pieces remain visible. Herbs aren't blended into complete uniformity. A light layer of olive oil naturally rises to the surface, just as it would in a homemade sauce that hasn't been overloaded with stabilizers and artificial thickeners. Nothing about it feels overprocessed. That's exactly the point. The flavor immediately separates Rao's from almost everything else on the shelf. Instead of delivering one quick burst of sweetness before disappearing, the sauce develops in stages. First comes the bright flavor of ripe tomatoes. Then garlic and onions begin to emerge. The herbs slowly build in the background, while the olive oil adds richness without making the sauce feel greasy. The finish is long, balanced, and unmistakably tomato-forward. That's something many supermarket sauces simply can't achieve. The secret isn't complicated. It's the ingredient list. Italian plum tomatoes, olive oil, onions, salt, garlic, basil, black pepper, oregano. Just 8 recognizable ingredients. No added sugar, no modified food starch, no soybean oil, no citric acid, no natural flavor. Nothing is included simply to imitate qualities that better tomatoes naturally possess. Rao's succeeds because it starts with tomatoes that already have exceptional flavor. Using high-quality Italian plum tomatoes means the sauce doesn't need added sugar to create sweetness. It doesn't need extra acids to brighten the flavor. And it certainly doesn't need artificial flavoring to remind you you're eating tomato sauce. The tomatoes do all the heavy lifting. That's why every ingredient has a purpose instead of acting as a correction. Of course, quality comes at a price. At roughly $8 to $10 per jar, Rao's is one of the most expensive sauces in the grocery store. For some shoppers, that sticker price can be hard to justify. But when you compare the ingredient panel with many cheaper competitors, the difference becomes obvious. You're not paying for fancy branding. You're paying for ingredients the company chose not to replace with cheaper alternatives. Sometimes the best products aren't the ones that add more. They're the ones that refuse to add what isn't necessary. Still, there's one option that goes even further. It contains even fewer ingredients. It's trusted by countless professional chefs. And instead of pretending to be a finished pasta sauce, it gives you something even more valuable. The opportunity to create your own using one of the finest tomato products available anywhere in the world. Best option number 2, Cento San Marzano Organic Crushed Tomatoes, the chef's secret that gives you complete control. If you've ever wondered why restaurant pasta sauce tastes richer, fresher, and more natural than most jarred sauces, the answer often starts with one thing: the tomatoes. That's exactly where Cento San Marzano Organic Crushed Tomatoes stands apart from nearly every other product in the pasta sauce aisle. Unlike the other brands on today's list, this isn't a ready-to-eat pasta sauce. It's simply an outstanding tomato base. And surprisingly, that's exactly why it ranks so high. Instead of trying to mask mediocre ingredients with sugar, starches, oils, and flavor enhancers, Cento focuses on delivering one exceptional ingredient and letting you build the sauce exactly the way you like it. The tomatoes come from the famous Agro Sarnese Nocerino region of Italy, an area long recognized for producing authentic San Marzano tomatoes. Thanks to the region's volcanic soil, warm Mediterranean climate, and generations of cultivation, these tomatoes naturally develop a sweeter flavor, lower acidity, and a richer tomato taste than most commercial varieties. The difference is immediately visible. Open the can and you'll notice bright red crushed tomatoes that still look fresh. The pieces remain intact. The juice is vibrant rather than dull. Nothing appears overprocessed or artificially thickened. It looks like tomatoes because that's essentially all you're getting. Then comes the flavor. Without added sugar, the natural sweetness is remarkably clean. Without excessive salt, the tomato flavor remains front and center. And because there are no artificial flavor enhancers competing for attention, every bite tastes fresh instead of manufactured. The ingredient list might be the simplest of any product featured in this video. Organic San Marzano tomatoes, organic tomato juice, sea salt. That's all. No modified starch, no soybean oil, no added sugar, no citric acid, no natural flavors, no unnecessary fillers of any kind. The sodium content is also among the lowest in today's rankings, at roughly 260 milligrams per half cup serving, allowing you to season your finished sauce exactly the way you prefer. Another reason serious cooks appreciate Cento is its DOP certification. Unlike marketing phrases such as Italian style or old world, DOP is a legally protected designation that verifies the tomatoes were grown in the authentic San Marzano region under strict production standards. That certification provides a level of accountability few other tomato products can match. Of course, choosing Cento does require one extra step. You won't simply twist off a lid and pour it over pasta. Instead, you'll spend about 20 minutes transforming these tomatoes into your own marinara by sautéing garlic and onions in olive oil, adding the tomatoes, seasoning to taste, and allowing everything to simmer together. It takes a little more effort, but it also gives you complete control over every ingredient that ends up on your dinner table. For anyone who enjoys cooking even occasionally, that extra time is well worth the reward. And while Cento provides perhaps the finest starting point for homemade pasta sauce, one final recommendation offers the perfect balance between convenience and exceptional ingredients. It's the brand many food experts consider the best ready-to-use pasta sauce available today. Best option number 1, Carbone Marinara, the restaurant quality sauce that delivers premium flavor without the shortcuts. Taking the number 1 spot is a pasta sauce that has quickly become one of the most respected premium brands in America. Carbone Marinara isn't built around flashy marketing or nostalgic family stories. Instead, it focuses on delivering the same rich, balanced flavor that made the famous Carbone restaurants so well known. The difference is noticeable the moment you twist open the jar. The sauce has a naturally rustic texture, with visible tomato pieces and herbs throughout. It isn't perfectly smooth or overly processed, and that's exactly what makes it feel authentic. Rather than looking like a factory-made puree, it resembles a sauce that has been slowly simmered in a kitchen where flavor comes first. The taste tells the same story. The tomatoes bring a bright, natural sweetness without becoming sugary. Garlic and onions add depth instead of overpowering the sauce. Extra virgin olive oil creates richness, while basil and herbs finish every bite with a fresh, balanced flavor. Nothing tastes artificial. Nothing feels like it's trying to imitate homemade cooking. It simply tastes like quality ingredients working together. One of Carbone's biggest strengths is its ingredient philosophy. Instead of relying on modified starches to create thickness or soybean oil to fake richness, the sauce lets slow-cooked tomatoes provide the body naturally. There's no heavy dependence on unnecessary fillers or flavor boosters that distract from the tomatoes themselves. That cleaner approach creates a sauce with noticeably better texture and a more authentic finish than many mainstream supermarket brands. Of course, premium quality comes at a premium price. Most jars sell for around $8 to $10, placing Carbone among the more expensive options in the pasta sauce aisle. But unlike many premium-priced competitors, the higher cost is reflected in the ingredients and overall eating experience, not just the packaging. For shoppers who want restaurant-quality pasta sauce without spending hours making it from scratch, Carbone delivers one of the closest experiences you'll find in a grocery store. That's why it earns the #1 position on today's list. It proves that great pasta sauce doesn't need a long ingredient list or clever marketing tricks. It simply needs excellent tomatoes, carefully chosen ingredients, and a recipe that allows those ingredients to shine. Today's comparison wasn't really about finding the cheapest pasta sauce. It was about learning how to separate smart marketing from genuinely better ingredients. Many of the biggest brands on supermarket shelves have spent decades building trust through familiarity. Colorful labels, Italian-inspired names, pictures of fresh tomatoes and basil. Words like traditional, old world, and home style. Those details make shoppers feel confident before they ever look at what's inside the jar. But the ingredient panel often tells a completely different story. Whenever you shop for pasta sauce, take just a few extra seconds to flip the jar over. Look beyond the front label. Ask yourself a few simple questions. Does the ingredient list stay short and recognizable? Is sugar being used to replace the natural sweetness of ripe tomatoes? Are modified starches creating thickness that quality tomatoes should provide on their own? Does natural flavor appear in a product that's supposed to taste like tomatoes? The fewer corrections a sauce needs, the more likely it is that the tomatoes themselves are doing the job. That's usually the clearest sign of a better product. The next time you're standing in the pasta sauce aisle, don't let decades of advertising make the decision for you. Let the ingredient list decide. You may be surprised how quickly your shopping habits change once you know what to look for. If you found this guide helpful, let us know in the comments. Which pasta sauce are you using now? And after watching this video, which one are you planning to try next? And if you enjoy honest grocery breakdowns based on ingredient labels instead of marketing claims, don't forget to subscribe so you won't miss our next investigation. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.